Great news for all Spurs and England fans. Alan Mullery, we saw him carried away at Upton Park yesterday with what was feared was a fractured ankle, and World of Sport yesterday was the first to tell you that there was no fracture. Today, we can say that Alan believes he'll be ready to play again for Spurs next Saturday. I spoke to him just before the programme. He said, "I can still feel pins and needles in my foot, but I'm walking around now and I must be the happiest fellow in the land." We are delighted. But first, let's go back to Upton Park yesterday afternoon at 5 minutes to 3. West Ham against Tottenham, two of London's most artistic sides, both of them now striving to get to grips with the aggressive demands of the modern game. The gates were closed some 20 minutes before the start.
So Alan Gilzean then kicks off for Spurs, defending the goal to our left against West Ham. A classic match here at Upton Park last season in pouring rain, which finished 2-2. Mullery now for Tottenham. And allowed to go surprisingly far, Mullery. Yes, no wonder he may smile by a West Ham defence and getting in a shot, but wide. And Pat Jennings, who has a very important date in Belfast on Wednesday night for a World Cup match for Ireland against Russia, with the goal kick now for Spurs. Now Mullery to make another of those bursts. Pearce. Mullery again. Gilzean waiting. Straight to Greaves! Well, Jimmy Greaves certainly has scored more difficult goals than that one, but West Ham really stretched to the full. To Sissons. Chased by Beale. Getting it across there, Best going in, and now Peters with a shot! Beautiful save! Magnificent save by Jennings. From number 8, Martin Peters, superb volley. And the sort of goalkeeping form, of course, that all Irishmen are hoping that this man can produce in that World Cup match on Wednesday night. Oh, very clever play by Moore, and now it's Sissons. He's only really got Hurst up with him. Hurst darting to make a yard for himself against Mike England. Getting it back very well. Great play there by Hurst. Geoff Hurst, who bowled himself into a photographer, knocking him over. And in fact, he's asking the referee to make sure that the photographers do stand back a little. Bobby Moore, Peters. And Greaves relieving the pressure by finding the willing Pratt. Pearce calling for it on the right. Here's Gilzean on the left. Pratt completely unmarked on the right. Into Pratt. Just over. Very annoyed with himself, and certainly that whole West Ham defence opened up for him. Pearce, flicked on by Gilzean. Pearce! Goal! Terrible argument in the middle of the field. The West Ham players surrounding David Smith. He's going across to the linesman. Jimmy Greaves is going with him. Now, what's he going to say? A goal or not a goal? A goal! Bonds. To Howe. Plenty of big men waiting in the middle for this one. Among them, Peters getting his head to it. England right up there. Brooking! Oh, hitting Hurst instead of going in. Well, Bill Nicholson knows that the game isn't won until the last whistle, so he's not counting any chickens yet. And there goes the final whistle. And so Spurs have won the Derby game. They took 3 points out of 4 from West Ham last season in the league. And so the final score here at Upton Park, West Ham 0, Spurs 1.
But just a little disappointing, perhaps, but perhaps we had also expected just a little too much from that game. But victory for Spurs, that puts them now into 4th place in the First Division. Another defeat for West Ham, which certainly must have saddened their manager, Ron Greenwood, who is our guest today. We meet him in just a moment. But first of all, let's have a look again at that goal by Jimmy Pearce that was worth 2 points at Upton Park yesterday.
Pearce, flicked on by Gilzine. Pearce! Goal!
Ron, the goal yesterday, which some people said at the time was disputed, I did have a word with Bill Nicholson at the end of the match about the goal to get his interpretation, and this is what he had to say about it.
Well, I was beginning to wonder as to whether he had signalled for a foul against our player, but I do understand that it was a foul actually against the West Ham player.
Oh,
So therefore, that was why the referee overruled the appeal by the West Ham players.
In other words, the linesman flagged.
He flagged for a foul against West Ham United, not against Tottenham Hotspur.
And played the advantage rule.
Yes.
Well, it all worked out very well from Tottenham's point of view. What about this young lad, Jimmy Pearce? What do you think? Tell everybody what you think of him as a player.
Well, he's got a tremendous amount of skill, this boy. He does lack confidence, and he worries quite a bit, and he's a bit hesitant too. But he's got tremendous amount of skill, and when he gets anywhere around the goal, he seems to know at present how to put it into the net. I thought the goal he scored today was very similar to one that he got for our reserve team down here against West Ham last season. But he took it tremendously well, he worked it well, he got them going both ways and just slid it in with the inside of his foot.
Well, that's Bill's version, Ron. Would you agree with it?
Yes, I conceded this fact to a posse of pressmen last night in our foyer, although I think that probably your wonderful coverage gives me a better view of it today, in as much that I probably thought that the linesman was flagging for Frank Lampard having caused an infringement, but on looking at it now, obviously the infringement was from Alan Stevenson and Alan Gilzine.
I hate to increase the agony, but we did have a camera there behind the goal to take this goal from another angle, and it shows really the beauty of that Pearce dummy. Bill Nicholson said he hasn't got much confidence. He certainly didn't show a lack of confidence here. Here it is coming up now from the other angle. There's the big goal kick.
You noticed Jeff trying to stop them getting the long kick in. This was what we were aware of.
Yeah.
But you've got to give Pearce credit there, in as much that it's a one-to-one situation, and this is what everybody's after in the game, trying to get people to take people on and create a situation as that was done. And with all due respect, there was no criticism on Frank Lampard. It was beautifully executed, and this is what the game's all about. If we can get people to do that, one for one, and get in there, every manager in the country would be very satisfied to have somebody to be able to do that week in and week out.
Ron, thank you very much indeed for coming in. I wish you luck with your brilliant football in the future, and I'm sure you won't mind, before you leave, just having a look with me and the rest of the viewers at the cuttings that we took of Alan Mullery's game yesterday before he went off the field. You never really miss a character until you think he's not going to be there, and I think Bill Nicholson must have been very worried that this man might not have been there for the rest of the season. Right at the start of the game, he imprinted himself on it. There he is, ghosting past a player. He wouldn't be very happy with that shot, which rather dribbled by the post, but you can see his lovely attitude to the game here in the smile on his face, ready for the next attempt. And it came soon afterwards. He up supporting his forwards all the while. There he is, number 4. He collects this ball, and this time he shows the power that he has got in the shot. Wham! And Ferguson is beautifully positioned there, makes the save look very easy, but there was plenty of power in the shot. Once again, Mullery in familiar position, up, forcing his forwards on. There he is, always ready to take the ball. And watch the accuracy of this cross to Gilzine, who muddles it a little bit, but it comes to Jimmy Greaves, and I think he scored a lot of easier chances than that one. But there's a chance of him picking up the ball on the left wing. Watch that lovely reverse pass to catch the defence and give Knowles a chance to cross and force that corner. But he's just as more than adequate, in fact, in defence. See the way he spots that run from Peters, and it isn't easy to spot Peters when he's coming through on the blind side of a defence. And here again, as this builds up, he's in number 4 there. You'll see Howe make a dash, and Mullery's awake and aware of it. And he gets there in the nick of time to prove that he can defend as well as attack.
Jimmy Hill there on Alan Mullery, and as I told you at the start of the programme, tremendous news about Alan. He's told us himself that he now expects to be fit to play for Spurs next Saturday against Manchester City. at Tottenham, we really had a whirl of activity on the very edge of the game. For one thing, a New England striker emerged, and the crowd certainly gave Sir Alf Ramsey a prompting over Martin Chivers. Sir Alf also had to find a new defensive replacement for Brian LeBeau when he was carried away with a bad leg injury, and as you all know by now, 4 other England players were also pulled out. So today we can salute Martin Chivers, we can also have sympathy for Brian LeBeau as we bring you our main match today from White Hart Lane, Spurs against Everton, with Pat Jennings in tremendous form.
Royal going for this one and getting up well. Newton going in, ball. Oh, a magnificent save.
Our studio guest today, and welcome to him, Alan Ball of Everton. Right, off we go. Spurs against Everton. Both sides really out of the running now for the Football League Championship, but both in the 5th round of the FA Cup. Most times they produce fine matches. This one is no exception, on a pitch that played better than anyone could have expected after the rain.
Wants to make the running down the left, Knowles. Here's Chivers. 26 goals this season for him. Neighbour once more. Oh, Chivers, a good pass and well taken by Chivers. And 3 Everton defenders converging on him in next to no time. That's what they think of Chivers, but now it's Knowles again to lift it once more. Peters with his head, and Chivers just passed. Knowles. And there's Chivers, beautifully placed for Neighbour. And Neighbour going on. And finally it comes to Chivers again. Neighbour's down, and the pass back by Ball. Neighbour really running through there at some pace. And Neighbour in turn finding Beale. There's so much composure about young Jimmy Neighbour, and there's Beale putting one through. Gilzean will leap for it as well. Neighbour coming in again. Oh, a great shot! And a fine piece of play there. That really was superb football. Neighbour looks as though he's hurt his arm. Well, I don't know how that kept in, but somehow it did. And it's back with Tommy Wright. Royal going for this one and getting up well. Newton going in, ball. Oh, a magnificent save. What a great save by Jennings. Ball looks absolutely amazed by it, as well he might. Fabulous save by Jennings. Oh, and Gilzean passed back that very nearly found Hotspur. Elbows, or rather not so much elbows, but Kenyon pushing down on Chivers as they went for that one. Spurs free kick from an interesting position, almost central, a little right of central, some 10 yards outside the area. Peters taking it quickly, Chivers going in. Oh, and a goal by Chivers, superbly taken by the Spurs. Well done for Peters, and Chivers really on it very quickly. So much of the credit going to Martin Peters for taking that free kick so quickly, as he must have done so often in his West Ham days for Hurst. And this time, instead of Hurst, it was Chivers who was there to finish it off. Kinnear to Mullery. Gilzean. Kinnear again. Mullery once more. All played there straight though for Tommy Wright. Now Ball. Husband made a burst through the middle. And Royal is waiting there, but it's still Husband. Played there now for Colin Harvey. Oh, and another fine save by Jennings. That really is 2 world-class saves that Pat Jennings has pulled out, first from Ball and now from Colin Harvey. Alan Ball. Oh, Morrissey coming in fast, and surely obstructed there, yes, by Joe Kinnear. So Everton's free kick, Henry Newton. And Royal not getting ahead to it. But now Howard Kendall going beyond that defence there, across the far side there. Joe Royal! 1-1. One that Jennings couldn't stop. And Kendall, who did so much in that, going behind the Spurs defence, and a nice little cross, finding that head of Joe Royal. So 1-1 we stand then, right on half-time. Mullery there. Chivers right in there. Peters getting there with his hit. Gilzean! Alan Gilzean, who finally turned it in. 5 minutes of the second half gone. From the corner by Mullery. Helped on by Peters and turned in finally by Alan Gilzean, who put Spurs into the lead again. Cyril Knowles to Martin Chivers, played nicely there for Peters to hammer it. Oh, just past the post, and a beautiful Tottenham move. A lovely little layoff by Chivers, and Peters on it like a flash. We're well into injury time now. Gilzean has got that one. Henry Newton taking too long, and the whistle in fact had gone. So Spurs have won by 2-1.
Well, our shortened version of that second half I don't think really quite could have done justice to Everton, who really came for Spurs hard in the second half, and Spurs themselves, in fact, didn't have a particularly distinguished second half. But now to take a closer look at that performance as a whole, welcome to our guest today, Alan Ball of Everton, with him, Jimmy Hill.
What about the Tottenham side? Have they improved since last season?
They're playing very, very good football. They played ever so well at Everton. Actually, they should have beaten us at Everton, and I thought we should have got a point, you know, if not 2 yesterday. But at Everton, they played ever so well. They came at us on our own ground. You know, we usually get things a little bit our own way at Goodison. But they came and they played ever so well, and they knocked this ball about. And I think they deserve to beat us. We drew no goals, and I think they deserve to beat us.
What's brought about the improvement in their team?
Well, you know, they work for one another, and they're not, like I said, they play football. They're prepared to play football from full back to outside left, and I like this in teams. You know, you see the great teams; they're always prepared to play football, and they've all got the players in the team to play football.
Who's the most improved player, would you say?
Well, you know, they've not really. Players haven't improved. I think they've just gained confidence in the way that they're playing. You know,
Martin
you get these
Chivers,
spells.
a different player from what he was?
Obviously, goals. You know, you're on top of the world when you're knocking goals in. Martin must be very, very happy at knocking goals, and you feel as if you can go out and you can just knock them in any time you want. I should imagine this is how Martin feels at the moment.
Yeah.
Charlie George, who can hit him. Oh, a great goal! Charlie George!
And welcome again to the big match. And if figures mean anything, they certainly add up to a bumper weekend for goals. In 43 Football League matches yesterday, there were 133 goals. And in our main match, we had more than our share. It was Spurs against Nottingham Forest.
Chivers, and he's onside, he's all right. Off the post!
But now let's get on with the action and the goals as we go to White Hart Lane, where the pitch now really is benefiting from a combination of better drainage and the summer-like weather that's gone with it. And where Spurs this season are unbeaten. What's more, they've averaged just over 3 goals a game for their home crowd this season. And now, against the bottom club, Nottingham Forest, Alan Mullery can lead an unchanged Spurs side.
Richardson, cut out beautifully by Peters, killed dead. Knowles still up there, the appetite for attack. Gilzean. Chivers jockeying for position there, and it'll come through unexpectedly. Oh, and a great save by Hume from Mullery. Magnificent save by the reserve keeper there. Kinnear, and Perriman's gone sprinting around the outside of Kinnear, more as a dummy, a decoy. Chivers not quite reaching this one. Peters finding Knowles. Again, Spurs beginning to dictate it. Knowles this time looking for Gilzean. Gilzean with his head, and Peters, and that's the goal. And one that counts from Martin Peters with 20 minutes gone. Beautifully nodded down for him. So the men who were criticised, and one of them who was roundly criticised, Martin Peters, put Spurs ahead, nodded down beautifully by Gilzine, and thundered in by Martin Peters. Peters and Neighbour. Peters has gone on the outside again. Beautifully played for him, and he is completely free. Chivers! Oh, a magnificent goal! Superbly created and brilliantly finished by Peters and Chivers between them. A really magnificent Tottenham goal. The beautiful little cross, first by Neighbour, taken first time by Peters, and inimitably Chivers there to provide the killer header. Kinnear. Gilzine trying to dummy Chapman. And he might try again, and he's given a penalty. He's given a penalty, and the opportunity now for Spurs to go 3 ahead with 3 goals in 5 minutes. Mr. Reynolds, absolutely no qualms at all about that one. Goal number 3. 3 goals in 5 minutes for Spurs, and never a moment of doubt that Peters would score with that penalty. Perryman, Beale, and now Chivers, and he's onside, he's all right. Off the post, bad luck for Chivers. Gilzine trying to turn it back again for Chivers, and Chivers given offside. Which it may well be that they have, but Peters now to Mullery. Gilzine, nicely there for Peters. Squared again for Chivers. The chance was missed. Again right up there. Mullery. Still Mullery looking for an angle for a shot, and getting one in! Alan Mullery, number 4. So a long snaking run from Mullery from in the touchline area, looking for the right angle all the time, eventually finding that and the back of the Forest net. So Spurs then leading now by 4 goals to 0. Now Knowles. Played there for Chivers, and now for Pearce. Is this the chance? Oh, a marvellous goal, and it's given without any doubt at all. The referee, in fact, looked at the linesman. He kept his flag down, and Pearce, from the sharpest of angles, really whacked it past Eric Hume. So a goal for Jimmy Pearce, and the 5th for Tottenham. It's the ball to Neighbour. Neighbour just a little too slack and a little too casual there. But Bob Chapman penalised for bundling Neighbour off the ball. A free kick to Spurs. 10 minutes now to go. Pearce, Chivers and Peters are the men that he will mostly aim for. And Peters, in fact, Chivers. Now surely someone will have a go. And it's there by Jimmy Pearce. It almost looked as though Spurs had lost their chance. Pat Jennings applauds from the other end. But it went from one to the other. They looked at each other, and finally Jimmy Pearce made it count. It looks as though that Tottenham appetite has been satisfied, and it's Richardson bringing it away again for Nottingham Forest to Ian Moore. Skillfully getting past Knowles, putting it across there, and a goal! And it's scored by the number 6, Richardson. So much of it, though, to the credit of Ian Moore. A really brilliant run by the Forest number 11. Pulled back nicely, and Richardson whacking it in with his head to make it 6-1, and the last kick of the game. That is the final whistle.
Now, after yesterday's game, I had a long chat with Bill Nicholson. Although he wouldn't comment directly on that affair in Nantes, it seems that it may well be that he's not as annoyed with those Spurs players as we all at first believed. But there is still one Spurs player that the fans find very hard indeed to sum up, Martin Peters. Well, yesterday, Jimmy Hill went along to White Hart Lane, especially to look at Martin Peters.
Well, in fact, Sir Alf Ramsey said about Martin that he was 10 years ahead of his time, and I think this may have reacted unfairly on Martin in some ways because people don't quite understand it and they throw that remark at him. I think we found one or two of the answers to the brilliance of his play yesterday. He's a player who's most devastating in both penalty areas. He does a lot more work in his own penalty area than people imagine, and he's devastating indeed when he gets into his opponent's penalty area. But it's how he operates, darting up from the middle of the field, that really unravels the skill of the player. There he plays a ball to neighbour. And watch now, his brain, his football brain, is searching for the space in the Nottingham Forest penalty area. Who was that flashed across there? And can you say that he hasn't found all the space in the world to lay on that chance for Martin Chivers? It's a superb diving header. But on the other hand, who could deny that Peters was the architect of that goal? In fact, it is this bursting from the middle of the field into the penalty area that really makes him, for me, worth as much as any other player in the country. Without any doubt, it's difficult for opponents to play against it. Sometimes when he gets up there, he's not all that accurate with his shooting. 3 out of 4 times, he'll hit his shots well. He's seldom off target with his headers, but here's an example early on in the game. He just goes for this through run after that fine work by Martin Chivers and hammers it over the top. Not quite as consistent as he might be. Yet, on the other hand, when it comes to passing through balls from the middle of the field, watch this, the touch of that off the outside of his foot there to neighbour. There's not much can be left desired in that skill. And now the curved cross into the penalty area, this time to Gilzean. Measured to the inch, Gilzean found his own area of space there and is a half an inch from scoring. And the best move of the match. Peters on the ball, typically in the middle of the field, lays to Mullery. Watch what happens to him from now on as he runs to the right of the picture. Chivers to Peters, he's in acres of space again and lays on that chance for Martin Chivers. He pushes forward at every opportunity. This is a left foot cross into the area, accurately laid for Chivers again, which brings about Perryman's shot. But the speed of the brain works at all times in the middle of the field. Perryman, first time from Peters, leaves Knowles in that marvellous position. Sometimes hurried passes mean mistakes which the crowd don't like, but they also mean wonderful opportunities. He seldom loses in the air. That header onto Chivers' head creates the chance for Jimmy Pearce to hit that superb volley. And now finally, Peters at his devastating best, the thing that makes him feared by all opponents. In the middle of the field again, laying the ball back to Cyril Knowles. He's drifting. Again, his brain is searching for the space. There's the chip to Chivers, and who's found the space? And when you can find space that destroys defences from that position, then you're worth £200,000 of anybody's money.
Fascinating stuff there. Martin Peters, as I'm sure you've never seen him before, a truly tremendous player. We have as our main match Spurs against Stoke, a match that is simply bursting with goals. The match also brings back to London that great former West Ham favourite, Geoff Hurst, and his old West Ham colleague in a Spurs shirt this afternoon, the skipper Martin Peters, confronting him. Also, arguably, the 2 top goalkeepers in Britain. For Spurs, of course, it's Pat Jennings, while at the other end, in the Stoke goal, the one and only Gordon Banks.
And there's a good piece of play by Peters. Coates running well for it as well. And Stoke in a little bit of trouble there. Gilzean, and then nodded back by Pejic as far as Banks, and it doesn't get to him. And a header and a goal by John Pratt. As Stoke hesitated, Pratt made no mistake. Lurking on the edge of that 6-yard area. terrible hesitancy there in the Stoke defence, and Pratt got up above them all, and Spurs go ahead with 3.5 minutes gone. Played wide again to Pratt. And the cross this time to Gilzean! Oh, a marvellous goal by Alan Gilzean! With a lovely cross again. From the right, eluding those Stoke City defenders, and Gilzean, that master of the header, there to finish it off and make it 2-0. Oh, pass back there by Peters, straight to Ritchie. Will it go? Yes, it has. And so John Ritchie has pulled one back for Stoke, given to him by Martin Peters. And although Pat Jennings just got a hand to it, it wasn't enough to stop that just crawling over the line. And totally unexpectedly, with Spurs dominating the game, Stoke have pulled one back to get back into it. Knowles, Coates. Brought down rather heavily there by Marsh. Was Ralph Coates. But it's going to be a free kick then to Tottenham. Chivers jumping forward, and Chivers winning it. Gilzean turning it back for Pratt. Oh, and John Pratt has scored another one. And a beautiful goal it was. And that was the reply from Tottenham. Nodded on beautifully by the two big men, by Chivers and by Gilzean. And Pratt was there to score his second goal of the game and put Spurs into a 3-1 lead. Now Gilzean with the ball at his feet to Martin Peters. Back heel to John Pratt, turning again, and Gilzean couldn't get to that one, but Knowles can. Letting one fly, and a good save by Banks. Ritchie again, trying to turn on it, but as he turned, he found Mike England was there. Terry Conroy. And a corner to Stoke. Conroy, scorer of one of the goals for Stoke at Wembley in the League Cup final against Chelsea. In fact, had a marvellous game here last year for Stoke against Spurs. There's Greenoff turning it in, and Ritchie! John Ritchie, that sure head of his at the near post, as Greenoff put it over. And that makes it 3-2. And the game really has not reached the heights it reached in the first half, but it's very difficult conditions out there, so very hot. But now Chivers turning it on. He hoped for Knowles. He'll get it back from Knowles. Chivers again. Will he let one go? Yes, he has, and that really was a real Chivers special that stung the hands of Gordon Banks. Tottenham's throw. Chivers handily placed there to hurl his long one. Gilzean also placed by the near post. Banks not really getting it with his fist. Bit of pushing and shoving there in the Stoke penalty area, and Knowles now to Ralph Coates, turning it across and turned in. Finally put there, presumably by Martin Peters. Coates turned it on superbly. From this angle, impossible to say whether Martin Peters did the finishing touch. But without any doubt at all, as a couple of supporters come on, goodness knows why. It's Mahoney for Stoke. Greenoff. And Bloor getting right in there. Yes! So 4-3. And Alan Bloor, who came in there on the blind side, totally unsuspected by that Spurs defence, put Stoke right back in it again with 7 minutes to go. And it's with Gilzean. And it's all over. No, it's not. Well, I don't know, the players don't seem to know. Yes, it's all over. And Spurs have won by 4 goals to 3. A fine first half, a rather flagging second half in the heat. I think we ought to clear up the confusion of that last Tottenham goal. Martin Peters told me afterwards he did not get a touch to it. In fact, it deflected off a Stoke defender. But he added with a smile that Ralph Coates was determined to claim it for his own. But now let's have a view of the game as a whole from Jimmy Hill.
Indeed, it was a strange game, and I see one paper this morning described it as summer madness. 7 goals, we thoroughly enjoyed them, but not really a great one, I would say, among them. 2 good things from Spurs' point of view. One at the top of the team, the aged end of the team, with Alan Gilzean's performance, and at the other end, young John Pratt, who did a bit for himself in gaining confidence and also enabled the crowd to get more confidence in him. Brian talked to him after the game, and he was extremely flattering about all the qualities that go to make up Alan Gilzean's performance.
I suppose, you know, like Gilly played a big part in both of them. You know, he's such a danger in the air, and I think when he's not playing, we really miss him in the air. He lays on a lot of goals for us.
But you certainly returned the compliment with the cross, didn't you, for his
yeah,
flying
well,
header?
you know, he's the daddy in the air, isn't he, you know. And,
But what about Alan Gilzean? A week or 2 ago, I did say about him that he couldn't have all that long left. Well, as long as he's there, he's determined to entertain the Spurs crowd in the way in which they like. A really unselfish player, a marvellous player in the air. I've said it before, I'll say it again. No one is better when it comes to deflecting balls with his head. Look how he makes that chance there for Chivers. Outstanding skill. And look at this one coming up now. Unselfishness and also a football brain working. A chest trap back to say, how about hitting that one in the net? Laying on chances for other people. But he did his bit of magic on his own. In the second half, this came just near the end there. Still plenty of run. He shows the ball to the fullback and then off he goes down the line and a curling cross in the middle, just too far ahead there of Ralph Coates. And again, in the last minute, a lovely deflection there, flicked off with his foot to Peters, but he's wanting it back again. He's still full of running, is Alan Gilzean, in the last few minutes of the game. And his goal, a typical Gilzean goal. This time, it was John Pratt's turn to make it for him. He's taking the cross there, and in comes Alan Gilzean, and again, that marvellous ability to deflect the ball with his head just where he wants it. Really first-class entertaining performance from Alan Gilzean. The Spurs team started off brilliant. They played some lovely football in the first half and really bewildered Stoke, and it was very sweet to watch. But after half-time, when Stoke came at them and really got to grips with their game, then I think Spurs showed their weaknesses. If they really want to win the Championship, they've got to concentrate a lot more when they're in front, and they've got to win their 50-50 tackles at the back and in the front.
Our main match is the big London derby game between Spurs and Arsenal. And here to add his interpretation to the action is Malcolm Allison. Brian Clough's got a long way to come down the motorway today.
I think he might have ducked it today, you know, because they only won 1-0 yesterday.
Yeah, well, let's hope he hasn't ducked it. We hope that he's here a bit later on to join us. We start today, though, over at White Hart Lane in North London, and the arrival of the 2 teams for this big derby game. Spurs, led as usual by Martin Peters, now winning praise as a captain who inspires this side. And certainly they're beginning to pick up a little bit of form at home. And they'll want to retain that against the oldest enemy of all, Arsenal, who, like Spurs, have had their troubles this season, though they remain a very difficult side to beat, having conceded a bare 3 goals in their past 6 games.
Gilzean, left-footed, ricochet, Peters over his head, so too was Simpson. Evans first to react. Pratt now. Good cross there by Pratt, forcing Wilson to come out. Chivers was hopeful of getting it over, and Knowles, and the ball was over the crossbar with Wilson on the floor. Gilzine to Chivers. And now Evans. McGrath on the far side, it'll be McGrath or Peters maybe! Oh, tremendous header there by Peters! And very well saved by Bob Wilson. But that really is why Peters gets that name, the Ghost, because he ghosted him behind the whole of that Arsenal defence. They just didn't know he was there. Brady. McNabb. Kennedy winning it well in the air and gives Radford just this glimpse of an opening. And the ball was bouncing nastily there right in front of Barry Daines, getting a pat of encouragement from Phil Beale, because that could have been such an embarrassing moment for him from Radford. But with his body behind it, at least he managed just to poke it round the corner. Knowles for the kick. Towards Chivers. Now Peters. Good shot there by Peters. And what a good save again by Bob Wilson. Peters really in sparkling form this afternoon. But so too is Bob Wilson. Chivers and Story having a tremendous scuffle there. And Gilzine has done it. Gilzine has done it. So Bob Wilson is beaten at last. The long kick helped on, and Gilzine just nudging it past Wilson. Gilzine at the near post. Aim towards Marty Peters, a back header by him. McGrath and overhead, and that very nearly went for the youngster there. Pratt. Crossed again, Simpson is there for Arsenal, and McNabb. But there's McGrath. Perimer, Gilzine, Peters, Pratt. Here comes the cross for Chivers, and Rice was there instead. McGrath to Pratt. McGrath again. And Chivers racing for this one. Once he gets into his stride, there really is nobody who can outstrip him. Peters, Chivers again, giving Peters that yard or so to put the cross in, but he leaves it instead for Perryman. Oh, what a collision there. I think Steve Perryman not only dummied Armstrong, he dummied himself. But it's an obstruction, it's a free kick, and it's Knowles who's going to take it. Mike England has come up with his arm waving on the far side. It won't get to him. Oh, but it gets to Chivers! 2-0. Martin Chivers. Well, they must have been watching England, but it was playing short instead. And Chivers was there to nod it past Wilson. 2-0. Gilzine's header. And an offside whistle was given in any case. Or maybe it's the final whistle. Yes, it's the final whistle, and Spurs have won.
Brian Clough at least has now managed to find his way down the M1. What kept you?
I'm sorry I slept in actual fact. I had a late night last night and I was standing in on Parkinson's show for Mike Yarwood.
Do you mean it's not the real Brian Clough here today?
I don't think he is. I think this is Mark Yarwood, definitely.
Does he do you well, Brian?
I don't know. He makes a good living out of doing me, so I'm very pleased for him.
Right, but we're very pleased to see you here now. As I say, the man of the match yesterday undoubtedly was Martin Peters. And afterwards I asked him what was so very special about a victory over the old rivals, Arsenal.
Well, it's so important for the players and our fans, you know. If Arsenal beat us here, they get ragged to the next game and vice versa, you know, with the players as well, you know. You have to put up with a lot here.
Do you feel Spurs are beginning to pick up a bit of form now?
We're not playing too bad. Today we played it fairly hard and fairly tight, and we hoped for 1 or 2 breaks, and they came eventually.
Brian, he played really well yesterday.
Yes, he's been playing well for a few weeks. Obviously, this responsibility of being captain's helped a lot. And the biggest honour, of course, is to be captain of England. That in itself would make you put yourself out a little bit more than normal. It's a big responsibility, and he's responded to it remarkably well.
Right, let's now look then at some of the moments that Martin Peters performed at White Hart Lane yesterday. Malcolm.
Now you're seeing this piece of action. You'll see Martin Peters' ability to lose a player. This is him second from the left on the far side. Now you'll see him drift in behind Kelly, and this long cross from Evans, a brilliant cross actually, and he drifts in right in behind. Here he comes, and he loses Kelly altogether and gets a strike on goal. That was excellent running by Peters, and Kelly was completely lost. This is what they call ball watching by Kelly, but tremendous running by Peters.
He's working very hard, obviously, at the moment, Peters. Here's an incident, in actual fact, that shows you just how confident Lee is playing. He could have just poked this ball out of play quite easily, but no, he's not content with that. He keeps it in play. He finds himself in a corner flag, and he doesn't panic then, and he lays the ball up to the halfway line, and the full-back would have been proud of that. Another instance here is where he's getting back into defensive positions. You can't actually see him yet at the moment, but he's there with Charlie George. It's a cross in, and he's in the real danger area there. And if he hadn't been goal side of Charlie George, that quite easily could have been a goal. Now we see the type of confidence he's playing with, because you watch this particular incident, he gets it, he appears as though he's got all the time in the world. He just looks up and lays it nonchalantly out to the outside left position, and this is a sign of a man in form, fully confident.
Great bit of television here, Brian.
Yeah, this is tremendous control here by Martin Peters. Controls it on his right thigh, takes it inside, and he hits it with the outside of his foot, and it's just going outside the post, and it turns about 2 or 3 feet into the near post. And there comes Bob Wilson making a brilliant save.
We'll show you it a second time, in actual fact, because I'm sure you felt exactly what I felt. I was waiting for Bob Wilson. I thought, well, where is he? Is he coming? Is he coming? We've seen the beautiful action from behind the goal, and here it is. This is the second time. You know he's coming, but he's taking his time. But when he gets there, he does his job, the lad does, gets his hands to it, and away it goes out. And I think he actually grabbed it, but it had gone over the line for a corner.
Our studio guest, and it's a warm welcome to Cyril Knowles of Tottenham Hotspur. First, though, let's get on with the action and get across to White Hart Lane, where it's not really been the happiest of seasons for Spurs, although they've had quite a good recent run that strangely hasn't yet shown itself in a better league position. Today they face a Newcastle side ravaged by injury, no fewer than 8 first-team players out of action. These are the two teams then. Phil Beale comes in at number 2 in place of Ray Evans, and it's a first game for a 17-year-old Scot from Morton, Neil McNabb. So many changes for Newcastle, but they also have someone making his first appearance in the league, 21-year-old goalkeeper Tony Bell. But first, young Neil McNabb of Spurs. Is he nervous about the afternoon to come?
I look forward to playing alongside players like Martin Shivers. Players like that, it's always good to play alongside them, because, you know, you get a lot of help and that, you know. I just hope I don't let the side down.
Just under 5 minutes gone. A deep one towards Mike England. Got his head to it nicely. Peters turning it. Oh, and a beautiful save by Tony Bell. First real time that he's been called into action. And he did supremely well there to push that shot from Peters around the corner. Short for Knowles. And hit in by Knowles, and well taken. Extraordinary goal! What an extraordinary goal! The goalkeeper threw it in his own net. His first game in the Football League, 21-year-old Tony Bell, his first appearance, and he took that ball so well as Knowles shot it, took it cleanly and threw it in his own net. Own goal by the goalkeeper. Spurs 1, Newcastle 0. Knowles. Coates backing up. And here's the cross coming over, but Clark has plenty of chance to get that away, but only as far as Beale. There's a deflection. Chivers is in there, and that's number 2, Martin Chivers. 2 goals in the space of 3 minutes, and Spurs are 2 in front. A cruel deflection there for Newcastle, and the ball fell for Chivers, catching the goalkeeper in no man's land. 2-0 for Tottenham. Linesman flagging on the far side for a foul by Howard on Duncan as they jump for that ball. It's a free kick to Spurs. It seemed to me that the offence took place quite so far across there as that, but that's where the free kick is coming from. About 21 yards out. Knowles going to have a dip. Yes, he is, and it's in the net. Cyril Knowles. 3-0. Bell is beaten again as Knowles hit that free kick around the wall. Bell could only have seen it in the last and couldn't react quickly enough. Tottenham 3, Newcastle 0. Clark. Well, there's a nice little chance coming up maybe for Cannell. He's got McDonald up there with him. Still with Cannell. Trying to get it for Burns, it'll come for Cannell again. That time he does get his shot in, and what a good one! A beautiful goal, and it's disallowed. Disallowed. There was an offside decision presumably there. The linesman on the far side is flagging, and the referee, Arthur Jones, has taken his word for it. In spite of the protests of Newcastle United, Cannell hit that shot superbly, but the flag was already up, and it'll count for nothing. England beaten in the air by Cannell, and now Malcolm McDonald for Newcastle, almost getting through. Jennings really flung himself in that situation. Again, Knowles has gone past him, and this time the ball has gone onto that left foot of Knowles. A good-looking cross. Duncan down! Oh, what a brilliant save, though. A lovely cross from Knowles on that favourite left foot of his. Duncan rising so beautifully at the far post, and what a good save by Tony Bell. Clark will turn it in again. Burns and McDonald, it'll fall for Mickey Burns, and a good save that time from Jennings. How on earth did Jennings get to that one? With McDonald and with Burns there making a nuisance of themselves to that Spurs defence, it fell for Burns. A little poke from him, and it looked as though it was going to be a goal. Marvellous reflexes by Jennings. The last seconds, because the referee is looking at his watch now, checking with both linesmen that the time is up. So corner comes in, a back header by Tommy Gibb, Duncan getting it away. Kennedy hopeful of turning it back, and in fact turned it back and just a couple of inches wide. And the final whistle goes. Jennings in fact has injured himself against that post, skidding across there. Malcolm McDonald and Cyril Knowles coming to see just how badly hurt he is. Not too serious, it seems.
So then a victory for Spurs, and I think a point worth making concerns Martin Chivers. The crowd on my side of the field certainly gave him a bit of hammer yesterday. What they didn't know, and what I didn't know until afterwards, was that Martin apparently had a high temperature on Friday night and nearly didn't play at all. As Terry Neal said, it's not an excuse, but it is an explanation for what was, I think, a below-form game by Martin Chivers. But one man who was very much on form yesterday, our guest today, Cyril Knowles. It's nice to see you in the studio today and back in the game again, Cyril.
Thank you.
You enjoyed yourself a bit yesterday?
Yes, I did really. I was pleased to be back. I was pleased from the point of view that we had a bad match last Wednesday at Leeds, and we needed to get the 2 points today. And I thought we had an indifferent game. I thought we did well in the first half. We fell away a bit in the second, but overall I was pleased.
But let's not delay the moment any longer. That first goal, It seems to have split the club down the middle as to whether it's your goal or whether an own goal by Tony Bell in the Newcastle goal. If we look at that again there, perhaps you can give us your version of it. Because you didn't see it on the day, did you? You'd already turned your back.
I'd already turned back to get into a covering position. I got
corner.
a short ball off Ralph from a corner, and I tried to not run into the near post for Martin coming in, actually, and I got a bit underneath it. And the last I can remember, I thought he grabbed it, and I was running back. And that's the last I can remember of it, tell you the truth, Brian. And then I realised that the crowd started jumping up, and I didn't realise what had happened.
But when you look at that again there, Cyril, do you go into the club tomorrow and say, I'm claiming that?
Well, from looking at it now, I would imagine it is an own goal, to be perfectly honest, you know.
But no doubt about your second one, there's a bit of a story behind that free kick, because it wasn't on at first, was it?
No, it wasn't on, actually, because Natras, the full-back, he was stood behind the wall, and there was no way I could get it round the wall unless I got him from behind the wall. So we shoved Ralph up on the outside, just inside the box, and Natras went out to mark Ralph, and then I told Martin to leave it. And
you curled it round the wall, as we can see from another angle, behind, in fact, Pat Jennings' goal, a long-range angle, this. Mm-hmm. You really had to curl that round the outside man there, Cyril?
Yeah, well, I hit it with the inside the foot, and I aimed to keep it low because I knew where the keeper was to start with before I took the free kick. I knew it was partly over to his left-hand side of the goal. So I just hoped.
Cyril, your attitude to the game seems to have changed, if I may say so, recently. Is that a fair comment?
Well, it has in a way. Over the past 3 years, I've tried to be more consistent with my game. You know, I think this is what makes truly the good players in the game, like Bobby Moore and Alan Ball and the Norman Hunters, because I think good players in the game are players who play week in, week out, not once every 4 or 5 weeks, you know.
And you'd been a bit flash before, where
Definitely.
You'd been a bit inconsistent.
Yeah, I did. You know, I'll admit that. You know, I times I went out there and perhaps my mind wasn't fully on the game, which it should have been. I mean, I was getting paid money, good wages, and I should have had my whole heart on it, but it wasn't. But over the past 3 years, as I say, I've tried to concentrate. When I go out there, I try to concentrate on my game.
Terry Neal thinks you're the best number 3 in the business and thinks you might get back in the England side. Not that he's trying to persuade Don Revie, but I think you really are. I mean, you're playing so well at the moment. Do you feel an England place is a possibility again?
Well, I'd like it if it came along, but I think there's 3 or 4 better fullbacks in the game than me at the moment, you know.
Cyril, it's been a delight having you with us today. Thank you very much indeed for coming in.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cyril. Matches between two sides battling near the bottom as Spurs take on Wolverhampton Wanderers. And our studio guest from that game, the Spurs' popular Irish goalkeeper, Pat Jennings. But first of all, of course, we move off to White Hart Lane for Tottenham Hotspur's game against Wolves. Wolves, a side that's only one off the bottom of the First Division table. And indeed, Wolves have an appalling away record. They've won only once away from Molineux in the last 13 months. So the task, obviously, is going to be a difficult one for them today against this Spurs side, who are now beginning to move a little better and indeed have gone 7 games without defeat. So, as we come to White Hart Lane, it's Spurs against Wolves with a rainbow over the ground.
Here's Con. Jones, Monroe, lost out there again. Chivers, Con. Callister off on the left, a spare man, here he is. Driven well, might come in for Neighbour, oh yes! Spurs ahead, 4.5 minutes gone, and a fine goal. With McAllister taking up a very intelligent position on the left touchline, doing the right thing as he was challenged by driving the ball in low, and it came through to Jimmy Neighbour, who hit a tremendous shot for his first goal of the season. Spurs 1, Wolves 0. Jimmy Neighbour, the man who's given Spurs the goal they badly wanted early on. Bailey beating Conn. Willie Young there. McAllister again, sending it off to Chivers. A nice header there by Chivers for Neighbour. Taking on Parkin. Doing very well. Back for Coates. Oh, and a tremendous save there by Gary Pearce. Good jinking run by Jimmy Neighbour. Perfectly weighted pass there for Ralph Coates. Slight deflection, which made that save by Pearce even better. Osgood. Jones up very well. Here's Perryman. There's McNabb with a shot just wide. Well, that was a good forceful break again by Tottenham, and not for the first time this afternoon. The heading ability of Chris Jones under pressure opened up the way. Perryman and McNabb both pouncing on it, and McNabb shot in the end going wide. A bit of anxiety on that Wolves bench now. They want people to stay forward in spite of pressure being put on them, and here's Willie Young. There's the goal! His first for Tottenham, and one that really could make all the difference now. The ball came over from the right. Young caught it well into the back of the net. Tottenham 2, Wolves 0. And Willie Young opens his account with his new club. Jimmy Neighbour with it. Curling again towards Willie Young. Oh, McNabb! Yes! Number 3. Neil McNabb. Gary Pearce infuriated, and in fact the referee coming across to the linesman. But the linesman had already run back towards the centre. Now, is it 2-0 or is it 3-0? It's going to be 2-0. So Neil McNabb disappointed. The goal is ruled out. Parkin. Daly. Now Bailey. Hit well and saved well. Daly coming in, Farley coming in and saved brilliantly. Never lets them down, Pat Jennings. Maybe a little fortunate with the first one, but a superb save from the second one. Hibbett with this corner for Wolves. Hit towards Bailey. On the volley! Oh, and what a save again! Absolutely amazing. Last season, Pat Jennings kept Spurs in the First Division. And today, he has kept Wolves out in brilliant style. Mike Bailey can't believe it. He caught that volley absolutely perfectly. And the crowd are still, 30 seconds after that save, still roundly applauding Pat Jennings. Level 4 for Willie Carr. Now for Bailey again, who's never stopped. Not stopping now either. John Richards with the shot and the deflection, and Pat Jennings is in trouble. No, he's not. Mike Bailey picking him up. A good sporting gesture there from the Wolves skipper. And that deflection looked as though it might have had Pat Jennings in trouble. All I can say is we should have known better. And he pushed it away again. Here's Daly, or rather Parkin, and now for Willie Carr. Last seconds of the game now. Crossed in again there, Daly shot, and this time it's there. And so Wolves at least have got the goal that so much of their second half play has suggested that they deserved. Cross coming in, well hit from the left. Daly, the substitute, getting up well, and at last Pat Jennings is beaten. Spurs 2, Wolves 1. And there goes the final whistle. A victory for Spurs, more trouble for Wolves. Willie Young having scored his first goal for Tottenham Hotspur in the second half to add to one by Jimmy Neighbour, and then Steve Daly getting one right at the end for Wolves, who had a much better second half. But the hero for Spurs, no question of that, Pat Jennings, 3 or 4 absolutely tremendous saves, the best of all probably from that volley by Mick Bailey. So victory for Tottenham, the final scoreline here at White Hart Lane. Spurs 2, Wolves 1.
Yes, the man of the match, and never a doubt about it, of course, Spurs goalkeeper Pat Jennings, and we're delighted to have Pat with us today. In fact, I think it's the first time you've been on the big match in some 7 or 8 years, Pat.
That's right, Brian.
We've taken a long time getting round to you.
I think it's a bit longer than actually 12 years.
Well, there you are. It's good to have you today. And I noticed, in fact, quoting from the News of the World this morning, Mike Bailey says, "Don't ask me how he did it. All I know, and everybody in our dressing room agrees, that this fellow is the best in the world." That's nice to wake up to on a Sunday morning, I would think.
Yeah, it makes a change, Brian. But it's a very big place, the world. I wouldn't like to go as far as that.
But were you particularly happy with your performance yesterday, as everybody else seemed to be delighted with it, Wolves accepted?
Well, if we went through the same next week, finish with the same result, I'd be more than happy.
But your reactions seem as sharp now. What, you're 30 now, Pat, aren't you? They seem as sharp now as ever they were. What do you attribute that to?
Probably my position now helps me a little bit more than probably in the early years. I think being a goalkeeper, it depends a lot on this positioning.
Do you train as hard as you've ever trained?
I'm probably training a lot, well, say a little bit harder now than what I did in the earlier years with Bill Nicholson.
Concentrating on what sort of things now?
Well, every day now I have a goalkeeping session, maybe for 15, 20 minutes.
Let's have a look at some of those saves yesterday, and you tell us what it was that appealed most of all to you about them. The first one, I think, is one from John Richards, where, if anything, I'll say it because I know you won't, that he exposes Willie Young a little bit there for pace. But what about his shot, Pat?
I think Keith Osgood there, if he hadn't fell over, could probably got a tackle in. I'm
interested in you, not Keith Osgood at the moment. Now, put your modesty aside for just one moment. I think, in fact, with this one here, probably you would felt you could have done a little better with that shot from Mike Bailey.
Yeah, I think you can see that it pitched a little bit in front of me there. Maybe only felt I might have held it. But I was lucky enough to get away with it here, knock the second one out.
That was luck, was it?
Yeah, a little bit.
But I think the one that everybody's raving about, and rightly so, certainly from a spectacular point of view, was this volley from Mike Bailey. Tell us about this from the word go.
There's Terry Hibbert getting in the cross from the corner. Mike Bailey coming on to it now, and I didn't see it till it was on its way. And I think it was 2 or 3 yards off the line, so probably that made it look as good as what it does.
I spoke to a lot of journalists after the game yesterday who watched football over the world, and all agreed that that was one of the best saves they've ever seen.
Well, I was pleased with it, but I think the fact that it was over my head, I would have been disappointed had it gone in the net.
And he hit it perfectly, Mick Bailey, didn't he?
Yeah, I think that was probably what made it look that much, or as good as what it did.
Spurs against West Ham, a London derby of critical importance. You need only a glance to understand the importance of this game to Spurs and West Ham as they search for salvation points at White Hart Lane. A White Hart Lane, cold and watery. The Tottenham pitch, though, in magnificent condition, really considering the bad weather. And this is the Tottenham side. Jennings in goal. Pratt, who comes in for Willie Young, who's suspended after being sent off against Arsenal. Osgood, Naylor and Gorman. Hoddle, Perryman and Coates. Taylor, Duncan and Conn, with Jones the sub, and making up for lost time after several months of injury, the Spurs striker John Duncan adding useful firepower to his side. This then is the West Ham side, unchanged after 5 points out of 8. Day in goal, Lampard, Green, Taylor and Locke, Bonds, Brooking and Brian Robson, Jennings, Radford and Keith Robson, and Otto Lukowski, the substitute. And the newcomer here, of course, is John Radford, signed just before Christmas from Arsenal.
Right foot towards Radford. Rested down beautifully there for Billy Jennings. Nice understanding here as Jennings tries to get Radford away again, but Keith Hotspur right in there, skimming away on that wet surface. And a throw to West Ham. Brooking. Perriman in very hard. I would have thought unfairly from behind. Free kick, yes. But a shake of the hands. A free kick to West Ham. Bill Green's come up on the far side, that tall figure. And Radford leading all the way. Goal to West Ham. Well, they've all gone across to Brooking as he glided that free kick in. Spurs all over the place. Did Radford get the touch there? Back of the net, and West Ham leading by a goal to nil with 2.5 minutes gone. Spurs 0, West Ham 1. Here's Taylor with that corner. Oh, and Pratt almost got in with a header, and somehow West Ham got it away again. Lovely curling corner again from Taylor. And Pratt very nearly got it there with the header that counted. Oh, that's a long kick back. And it wasn't more than a yard wide. I think it was Billy Bonds who in fact got that long kick back towards Mervyn Day, and Day was away out of his goal, and he was in trouble until it went just a yard wide. Jennings. And Billy Bonds, well, he gave that one away as well. Duncan sending Peter Taylor on. A chance now for Tottenham, and Duncan, oh no, he hit it right into the side netting to Taylor. Duncan had gone roaring into the middle, looking for something to come back his way. Taylor decided on the shot. And the shot went into the side netting. Tulakowski lost his touch there. And here's Hoddle now for Tottenham. Conn on a tremendous run, and Billy Bonds going with him. Conn going all the way. Linesman flagging penalty. That's going to be a penalty. The referee's going across to the linesman, but the linesman had his arm across his chest. The linesman definitely had his arm across his chest, and it's going to be a penalty. That's the incident. That seemed a harsh one to me. There was a bit of pulling there, I suppose. But a corner, or rather a penalty given, a chance to go back on level terms, and that's where they are. If looks could kill, the linesman on this side of the field would be dead, but there's no doubt about it. When Keith Hotspur hits those penalties, they stay hit, and Day had no chance at all. Closely, Pratt's made the run, and Keith Robson got the header away. Alfie Conn with a shot. Oh, and a very good save indeed by Mervyn Day. As that came out, Conn, probably for the first time in the game, had a clear sight on goal, hit it well. Day flung himself and turned it round for the corner. Conn, a nice touch there for John Duncan. He's hit it well, and that's goal by Duncan. Striker John Duncan, out for so long with injury, and just look now as that ball, he gets it onto the left foot and puts it wide of Mervyn Day. 2-1 to Tottenham. Billy Bonds again to Tommy Taylor once again. There's another long cross going in. Robson couldn't do anything with the header. Otulakowski again. Referee looking at his watch, and it's all over. It's 2 points for Tottenham with those 2 goals in the second half. The winner coming from John Duncan. With Spurs coming back so well in that second half, Keith Osgood scoring from the penalty spot. And it was that penalty that really was the turning point of the whole game. After West Ham had played and defended so well for so long, and Trevor Brooking had given them the lead with only 2 minutes of the game gone. A good derby game, and a precious 2 points then for Tottenham Hotspur. A final scoreline at White Hart Lane that reads Spurs 2, West Ham United 1.
So 2 points for Spurs, but a question for everyone. Was it really a penalty? Certainly there were fierce arguments about it afterwards, and there was no doubt that it was the turning point of the whole afternoon. In a moment, we shall have a close look at it. But first, a word with the Spurs match winner, John Duncan. I suggested to him that it was a good way for a Scot to celebrate the new year.
Missed the celebrations last night with the game today, but I definitely made up for it, the victory today.
Is that sad news, missing celebrations on that particular day?
No, it's quite normal. In Scotland there's a game on New Year's Day every year, and I've missed the Hogmanay for many years now. So,
poor old Scott.
I'll make up for it tonight.
Yeah. It wasn't a bad performance by both sides, I thought, today, John.
I thought it was a very good game from a spectator's point of view. Both teams, I thought, played very well. I think we just deserved to win.
Yeah.
On play, I think we just deserved it.
Why do you say that in particular? Because you didn't make that many chances, did you?
No, I just think territorially we had more of it. We were attacking more than they were.
Because they got off to such a good start, and it's interesting. It's going to be interesting to have a look to see just how that goal of Trevor Brookings went in.
Yeah, it was a bit unfortunate from our point of view. The free kick just went directly in and nobody touched it.
John Radford went diving in, but I think probably that may have put 1 or 2 people off.
Yeah, I think they thought he was going to get a touch on it and he didn't, and it rolled in the corner.
But I think the turning point was still the penalty, wasn't it, which West Ham hotly disputed.
Yeah, that was... They were defending very well until then. We got the goal and they lost a bit of their confidence, and we capitalised on it after the penalty.
What did you feel about the penalty?
I was deep. I had been back for a corner and it had gone straight up the field off the corner, so I didn't get a close view of it. The players in the dressing room said that Alfie did get pulled back, so it probably looked a bit softish, but I think probably it was a penalty.
Well, John Duncan of Tottenham, but what about that Spurs penalty? You heard John say that he thought that the Spurs players felt that Billy Bonds had pulled back Alfie Conn, but that it may have been a bit softish. I think it's probably our duty to have a closer look at that incident that really was the turning point of the whole afternoon. A beautiful ball played here by Glenn Hoddle. Now, does the first serious contact happen outside the box? Billy Bonds on the left there. A little grab there at Alfie Conn, but that was outside the box. Now, once he's inside, does he grab at all? I must say, my impression looking at that again in slow motion, I've looked at it several times, is that he didn't. But let's have another look at it. If you're pulling a player back, surely you've got your fist clenched. Look at Bonds. His right hand there is open. Referees, I don't think that was a penalty, you know. And referees are always telling me that you can't have a harsh penalty. It's either a penalty or it isn't. My view is that that wasn't a penalty, or if it was, I think referees would give about 20 or 30 during the course of a game for incidents similar to that one.
Oh, and Pearson put through by Greenhoff. Jones is after it. Pearson shot, goal!
Now we go to the sunshine at White Hart Lane and join the 31,000 crowd for the game between Spurs and a Fulham side, now without George Best since his unexpected flight back to America 48 hours earlier.
So the man wearing the number 7 shirt, which was to have been worn by George Best, is young Brian Greenaway, playing his first full game of the season for Fulham. And he'll be anxious to get on the mark today, but a man really on the mark this season for Spurs is John Duncan. Back to full fitness again, and he's already scored 6 this season in 5 games. So Jerry Payton. Hoddle. Nice chest trap there, but that might be a little ambitious. except that he was given it back again. Now Jones hit first time, a yard wide. Again, very nearly making something out of nothing. It was Evanson who gave that one away, and Hoddle took full advantage. A nice ball played through there for Chris Jones. Bit of a push there on John Duncan. Oh, and Chris Jones somehow from 7 yards out put it high over the crossbar. An unbelievable miss, that one. It looked to be a push on John Duncan, but the ball eventually coming through to Chris Jones. And it looked a formality putting it wide of Payton. Well, he did that all right, but he also put it over the crossbar. Evanson couldn't quite get it and certainly couldn't confuse him into an error, but it might yet come for Fulham. And in the end, Spurs scramble it away with Osgood. And now a chance for a Tottenham break. Taylor. Story going back with him. Lovely. Oh, and a beautiful header there by Duncan. A real masterpiece of a move that by Tottenham. After it looked as though they were in danger at the other end. And Taylor did everything right, because he hit that ball at exactly the right height, into the space in front of the front runners. Duncan was there with his head, but he hit it straight at Jerry Payton. A beautiful move. Holmes. Duncan. Pratt. Really getting hard in on that situation. Playing it now for John Duncan again. What a lovely idea, but also a good quick spot by Jerry Payton in that Fulham goal. Pratt playing that ball wide of the defence. Oh. Now, no goal. Thought for a moment that Tom Bune was going to turn around and point to the centre, but there was an infringement clearly on the goalkeeper. Going back to that ball of John Pratt's, though, played nicely for Duncan, but the keeper was quick to spot it. And then after that, we had that slight shenanigans, but obviously there was an infringement there by Duncan on Payton, although Duncan put the ball into the net, no goal. Maybank getting the better of Holmes, played there for Mitchell. Oh, a linesman was flagging on the far side. There was an infringement there, and the goal will not count. Well, maybe it was Maybank offside. The infringement was over there, and even though Mitchell put the ball in the net, it doesn't count. Naylor. Taylor. That's a good cross. Duncan's on the far side with the header for Chris Jones. And at last they've broken that Fulham deadlock. And Peter Taylor sitting down by the corner flag. Well, there's the man who made it, Peter Taylor, bursting on the scene again. He got that over by the line, by the byline. A lovely long cross. John Duncan up well, unselfish as ever, down for Chris Jones, and hooked it in from close range to Jones. Spurs 1, Fulham 0. Naylor. And Hoddle. And McNabb. Long shot, tipped over. McNabb taking a surprise long shot there. And well timed that tip over by Jerry Payton. Whistles going around the ground now, but not from Mr. Bune. And Fulham look again as Evanson crosses that ball in there. Lacey had gone up there, and McNabb with a chance of making a quick break. Naylor playing it forward again, but Taylor halted in his stride by the final whistle. One goal and a victory for Spurs, but little else. Chris Jones, who got the vital goal 15 minutes or so from the end. Peter Taylor with that beautiful cross of his was the man who made it, helped in between times by a very unselfish head down by John Duncan. Not a lot to talk about in this game, to be honest, except that the final scoreline at White Hart Lane, is Spurs 1, Fulham 0.
And yet I suppose the Fulham fans might have gone away wondering why they had a goal disallowed in the second half. Let's clear that one up for you. It involves Teddy Maybank going in on the back of Jimmy Holmes here. Referee Tom Bune suggesting that that was a foul. It looks a bit clumsy, but it doesn't really to me look much of a foul. And Maybank comes away with the ball. Certainly there was no question of offside. John Mitchell, as you can see there on the left of the picture, in an onside position. As the ball comes across, he slips the ball into the net. But the decision had already been given, and I suppose Fulham might feel a little aggrieved by it. I must say also that Spurs don't look totally convincing yet, though. But how could you argue with a side that is unbeaten and has conceded only 3 goals in its first 6 League and Cup games, and got men like Steve Perryman and Glenn Hoddle, who thought was very quiet yesterday, in fact, John Duncan, who's got that nose for goals, and the hard-working Chris Jones. But they are a bit patchy for all that. And I think that's probably best summed up by the patchy form yesterday of winger Peter Taylor. For spells, he seemed right out of it. But then, my goodness, he also produced 3 marvellous moments that might have meant 3 goals for Tottenham. And the first was probably the best move of the game. Fulham had Spurs in a bit of trouble there for a moment. They get out of it well, though. And it's Chris Jones's pass to Peter Taylor, and away he goes. And these really are killer balls that these wingers place in early on in front of an on-rushing front man. A brave header there by John Duncan, and Jerry Payton, who played very well in goal for Fulham yesterday, beautifully positioned for it. An identical ball in a way here from Peter Taylor, taking on his defender, getting past him, and then slipping that ball into the 6-yard area, inviting front men to run onto it, and Chris Jones just failing to get the touch. But ironically, it was really an old-fashioned cross that finally undid Fulham, as Terry Naylor plays it down the wing there for Peter Taylor. This time he hoists a long, high one. John Duncan, he really does get up so well. There he is again, guiding it there, and for once Chris Jones has lost his marker. And that was a goal that meant 2 points for Spurs. Find the next action confusing, because it's some great stuff from Elland Road, where Leeds United yesterday faced Tottenham Hotspur. Yorkshire Television's cameras were there, the commentators Martin Tyler, and a clash of colours for those of you watching in black and white, I'm afraid. Spurs, though, are in the slightly darker strip, with the black flashes on the front of their shirts, but wouldn't it have been so much easier if one of them had worn dark shorts.
The real test for Leeds in the middle of the field is, of course, how to cope without the creative talents of Tony Curry. And taken by Peter Taylor. Now a chance for Spurs to open it up. And beautifully taken. The referee just looking across to check with the linesman. But no doubt at all that Peter Taylor, having taken it away from Flynn, had the pace to leave Paul Hart. And then it was one-on-one against the goalkeeper. And Taylor kept his head and rolled it into the corner. So a worrying first half for Jock Stein. Hankin. Flynn taking on Perryman. Opponents to get through. That was Lorimer. That was the crossbar. Well, the odds were against Flynn, but he battled so well to get in the cross. And it was Peter Lorimer who met it. Daines was wrong-footed and was saved by his crossbar. Should be the goalkeeper's ball. It wasn't a very convincing punch, but it reached the edge of the penalty area. Stevenson, beautiful skills. The handball by Lee. There was nothing wrong with the tackle. Harris Hankin. Now Graham. Goal! Arthur Graham for Leeds. Into the second half, and they find a way through. Harris, the originator, too high for Hankin, but beautifully met on the volley by Arthur Graham. On for Perryman, turning inside Frank Gray, back for Ardiles, and a goal surely for Colin Lee. On the counter-attack, Spurs get a goal which could be priceless to them, and set up with a really fine drive at goal by Ardiles. Harvey couldn't hold it. Open goal for Lee, 2-1.
2-1 for Tottenham. That's a win that'll lift morale at White Hart Lane. But what a weekend of surprise substitutions. Why was Ricardo Villa taken off? The Spurs manager, Keith Birkinshaw, says, well, Ricardo was getting tired and losing one or two things up front. But he's got skill, he's played well for us. Maybe we can drop him back a bit later on. Welcome again to the big match after so long. It really is good to be back with you again. Our main match is London's top game as Spurs take on Nottingham Forest. And we should also be talking to Glenn Hoddle of Tottenham, who's our studio guest today, 22 yesterday. But now let's start with Spurs against Forest at White Hart Lane.
Well, our thanks to Spurs for that welcome, and indeed what a day it is to be here at White Hart Lane with the sun beaming down, the perfect setting for this game between Spurs and the European champions Nottingham Forest. A day when the goalkeepers are sharply into focus. Milja Alexic comes into the Tottenham side for the first time this season. He replaces the injured Barry Daines, while at the other end Peter Shilton, along with Ray Clements, the best in the land, makes a formidable barrier for the Tottenham strike force today. And in the outfield, Glenn Hoddle, last week an emergency goalkeeper himself when Daines was injured during the victory at Leeds. Glenn, who is second top scorer in the First Division with 8 goals. The top scorer is Tony Woodcock of Nottingham Forest. He's got 10 goals this season, and alongside him is Trevor Francis, who, like Woodcock, scored twice for England in Belfast, but was not eligible for the midweek European Cup game. Alexic. Mary Lloyd underneath this one, but beaten in the air by Jones. Armstrong's coming in there. Oh, a tremendous goal by Hoddle. 1-0 to Tottenham with a little under 3 minutes gone. A tremendous goal there by Hoddle. And Shilton really had no chance whatsoever. The long ball really with Lloyd in a bit of trouble, under pressure from Jerry Armstrong. And how invitingly that ball fell for Hoddle. And what a shot. Kenny Burns winning that in the air, but not really decisively. And then beaten the next time by Armstrong. Oh, somebody's boot went flying there. Kenny Burns' boot, in fact, but it's a free kick nonetheless against Nottingham Forest. Ball a little squarer than before. Where the position is. Houghton coming in for it as well. Hoddle with a shot, hit the post. What a beautifully taken free kick, and that quite caught Forest out. And Hoddle really let rip with that one, and he hit the post. Yorath battling away in the midfield. Kenny Burns hitting it straight at Ardiles. And a beautiful ball by Ardiles for Jones. Oh,
across the face of that Forest goal again. And that could so easily have been a second goal. But what a ball it was from Ardiles that put Jones clear. Angle not an easy one, of course, but it really only needed a touch, and Forest escaped. And again, the game allowed to go on there by the referee, and as Ardiles takes it up, played in again towards Jones, and Forest are happy to hook that one away. Francis once more. Really is all action here at White Hart Lane as Villa takes it up once more. There's a danger that Ardiles was offside. That's why Villa played it for Yorath and now turned instead for Hoddle. And this is where the danger so often is coming from. Houghton now with a nice little cross coming in. Too high there for Armstrong, but Jones! No, offside. The linesman didn't flag it, but the referee saw a handball. The referee says handball and the goal disallowed. Chris Jones prepared to dispute the point. But there's the incident coming up, and there it is that the referee said there was a handball, even though the ball went past Shilton. Smith. Now Ardiles. Jones coming hard for this one, but... Oh, Kenny Burns and Ardiles getting involved there, and Villa getting involved with Burns. And a bit of rough and tumble developing there, really from what was, it seemed an innocent situation. Kenny Burns lifting his shirt to show where Ardiles' boot had gone, but it looked to me a quite ordinary rough and tumble as two fellas went for the ball. And again, Hoddle and Yorath are standing over it. And now folks got in there, Shilton watching that like a hawk the whole way. But what if he were to score? Well, it's played for Villa. Getting to the byline. Back it comes again, and well, it was aiming towards Armstrong, but instead it's with Yorath, and a good save there. I think Alexic might well elect to belt this ball up into the midfield, and I think that might be the final kick of the game. Indeed it is. Spurs have beaten the European champions Nottingham Forest by a goal to nil. A memorable goal by Glenn Hoddle on his 22nd birthday. But overall, a performance that Spurs can truly be proud of. Tottenham are back. The crowd were chanting a few minutes ago. And after a performance like that, well, there's no doubt whatsoever that they are making the right sort of progress as Brian Clough and Peter Taylor come off the field. I think they, above all, would concede that on the day they've been beaten by a better side, Forest never allowed to get into their stride, as Spurs mixed aggression with skill, and it proved too much for Brian Clough and his men. And a final scoreline then here at White Hart Lane. It's Spurs 1, Nottingham Forest 0.
Well, a fine win for Spurs, no doubt about that. It knocked Forest off the top of the table. With Manchester United drawing at Everton, they go to first place now. And just look at Spurs there, lying 7th. 7 games without defeat now, thoroughly deserving that win. A marvellous birthday goal for our guest today, Glenn Hoddle. Great way to celebrate.
Yes, very, very good. I was very pleased with it.
In fact, I noticed that Brian Clough, no less, has described it as a World Cup goal.
Well, obviously I was pleased with it, and I don't think he was that pleased, really, because you know, early in the game going against him, but you know, it's
I think he was telling me afterwards that he was surprised at the tempo of the game, the way that Spurs had played.
Yeah, I think we started off very, very quick, and we harassed them, and we didn't let them settle at all. And the quick goal obviously did help us, and we seemed to settle down quite quickly.
But it wasn't just a hustling performance, because you showed so much skill right through the side.
Yes, I think we're confident now, looking at the top teams, and I think we believe in ourselves that we're as good as most of them at the top, and I think it's just that we have to bring this hustling and closing down teams into our game. I think we'll be okay then.
But as a midfield player, you're now getting a real ration of goals. I think it's 9 this season now. Do you feel you're a more complete player this season?
Obviously I'm pleased with the way things have gone this season. The goals have been funny how they've come about, really. I haven't sort of set myself out to score any more goals at the beginning of the season. It's just happened. I haven't really had a knock-in yet, as such, but I've had to work hard for my goals, really, this season.
Before we talk some more about your goals, I want to see let you see what Keith Birkinshaw, your manager, said about you when I spoke to him about your new form after the game yesterday.
Yeah, he's a little bit strong-willed, Glenn, and it's been a little bit of a battle of wills.
But between you and him?
Yeah. Well, yes, and I think that he's now seen that this is going to be the best policy, and I can't think of any better midfield player in the country at present.
Now, the crowd shout Hoddle for England.
Yeah, well, I only hope that Ron Green was watching this tomorrow.
Well, I think Ron's quite aware of your capabilities. You're a regular in the under-21 side. But what's this about a battle of wills between you and Keith?
I think he was on about, you know, the game that it doesn't come natural to me is my defensive side of the game, and I think I've worked on it, and he's always been getting on to me ever since I was, you know, he come to the club, really. And I think I'm just beginning to get hold of it and realise that, you know, it's a big part of the game to help the rest of the lads out in the team.
Meanwhile, at Tottenham, they've got plenty on their minds, not only 4 successive defeats, but also a major upheaval around the ground.
A church in Tottenham High Road that you wouldn't have seen before from here. But we've told you, of course, that this deserted Tottenham stand is in the process of being pulled down to make way for a new one at the end of next year. And there are the signs that it's underway. Nobody allowed to sit in those seats now, of course. But behind the scenes, there's plenty of evidence that the builders are at work. So things, as you can see, are really underway here at Tottenham. And indeed, the dressing rooms are no longer in use, and the players now use these temporary premises. So it's a fairly makeshift arrangement for the teams. Here's Manchester City on their way to the pitch, and Phil Boyer bringing up the rear. Steve Perryman now leading out the Spurs. There's still quite some way to go before they get actually out onto the pitch. Throw there, only going as far as Mackenzie. Here's Villa now for Tottenham. It's Ardiles. Ready on again for his fellow countryman. And a little flick wide and a good one there for Perryman, who'd come forward quickly for Tottenham. Outside him is Roberts. Here's Ricky Villa again. Played there. Oh! And Archibald! Well, if there are any doubts about Archibald's fitness before the game, there was none in terms of his quick thinking and getting in there to put Spurs in the lead. Perryman playing the ball in there to Villa, who did well here, and so too did Ardiles, number 7, with that shot there. Well saved, in fact, by Corrigan at full length. Before he could get to it, Archibald was in there, and Spurs were in the lead, 1-0. Hutchison just kept in play expertly. The crowd gave him applause for that, which it certainly deserved. There's Gow again, a really competitive midfielder. Now Mackenzie, we very nearly found Boyer with that one. Here's Gow again, and City have got a lot of people forward. Boyer! 1-1. His first goal for his new club, and so typical of the man. And the man who bought him, John Bond, I would have thought, well, that's repaid something. And it was a really beautiful header. Jerry Gow, who's done so much in the midfield for Manchester City since he joined them from Bristol City, and a really good, powerful header by Boyer, and that's 1-1. And here's Hoddle again. And he's done it again!
game that he'd had so far had not really, by his standards, been all that impressive. My word, he hit that one. It deflected off the line into the roof of the net, but it's Glenn Hoddle's goal. Getting the right sort of angle there, just flicking off the defender, Bobby MacDonald. But it's 2-1 to Tottenham. Hoddle again. Suddenly sprung to life with that goal, and then with a shot that wasn't far off the mark and hit with great power. Archibald playing it into him there. Economy of effort, but a great deal of power. Power going in there. It was Archibald who got it away, not very far though. Hoddle nicking it on, and now a chance. There are two up. Vigna is supported by Crooks on this side. Vigna going all the way. No, Crooks. The linesman's flagging, and it's offside. Surprise on the face of Garth Crooks, and there couldn't have been much in it. The linesman was right up there. And yes, it looks very much as though the linesman was 100% right. An obstruction there on Tommy Hutchison, another free kick from Manchester City. But there's not time to take it. And Spurs, with that goal from Glenn Hoddle 15 minutes from the end, get what could be a very valuable victory and put an end to a run of 4 successive defeats. With Archibald having scored for Spurs in the first half, Phil Boyer equalising for Manchester City, Glenn Hoddle getting the winner, Keith Birkinshaw goes off with a good deal of relief, and a final score here at White Hart Lane is Tottenham Hotspur 2, Manchester City 1.
And indeed, a victory that eases the pressure a little on Tottenham, but it's a defeat that throws Manchester City back into the relegation issue. They are 5 off the bottom with 18 points. Important that Palace won that match today against Norwich City, not only in terms of their morale, they must keep within reach of the side 4 off the bottom, which happens to be Norwich. You can see there the gap is 5 points. It's to White Hart Lane, Spurs against Nottingham Forest.
Proving how perverse football can be. Mark Falco here, who cost Spurs nothing, just can't stop scoring and has got 7 to date this season. Justin Fashanu, who cost Forest £1 million from Norwich, has yet to score for his new club after 7 games. But he's a class player, and the goals will come for Justin, you can be sure of that. Hoddle just nicking that away for our dealers. And played nicely, awaited ball there for Hazard. What good skill on the ground by young Mike Hazard. Crowd enjoyed it. His cross is a beauty now for Hoddle. Played it again there. Oh, and a beautiful goal by Falco. What a magnificent goal by Tottenham. Falco on target again, but Hazard and Hoddle between them. Absolutely superb in the build-up. Look at Hazard here, jinking his way, lost it temporarily, floated a lovely ball here for Hoddle, and what a touch there by Hoddle. And there's Falco coming in with another superb touch. 1-0. They've just had 4 days down at Bisham Abbey to tone themselves up for this game at White Hart Lane. Fashanu, it's a shot, and the first real shot on target coming from Mark Proctor, but straight at Ray Clements. Better movement about the game in the second half now. Mike Hazard. Will he go all the way, Hazard? Oh, and Shilton of time, but that was a dainty little piece of picking the ball in and out of bodies and tackles, just as he did, in fact, in the lead-up to the Tottenham goal in the first half. And Shilton diving out. Fashanu up, finding Wallace. McGovern looking again for Fashanu, playing again for Wallace. And Wallace with a shot just wide of that Tottenham goal. The first real dangerous break that Forest have had in this game. The first occasion really when Fashanu and Wallace have combined so well. Suddenly the little Scot gets it onto his right foot, going wide. Absolutely unstoppable. Hoddle and Hazard, who made the first goal for Falco, take one between them now. Hoddle's pass, and it's hit on the half volley after being chested down by Mike Hazard. Ardiles. Robertson. Caught in possession. Falco. 3! Given away by Forest, and Falco says, thanks a lot. Well, the mistake was here, as Robertson really gave it away. It fell into the path of Falco, under the body of Shilton, and Spurs 3-0 ahead. Whistle goes. Victory there for Spurs with 2 goals from Mark Falco, the first and the third, bringing his total to 9, and in between them probably the best goal of the game, scored by Mike Hazard, who came in at the last moment for Ricky Villa. A good all-round performance by Tottenham, one of disappointment for Nottingham Forest, who never really got moving, and the Spurs fans, in fact, are applauding their team, and in return the team are applauding them. So it's been a good week for Tottenham, and a final score here at White Hart Lane today. It's Tottenham Hotspur 3, Nottingham Forest 0.
Well, a game remembered best for the quality of its goals, though I don't think we should underestimate the strength of Tottenham's team performance yesterday. Indeed, manager Keith Birkinshaw called it Spurs' best performance of the season, against what he said was possibly the most physical team we have met. As for Forest, well, they hustled away from the scene of that defeat without a word to anyone. Incidentally, before we leave Spurs, what about those 2 number 4s in their side at the start of the game, Paul Miller and Graham Roberts? The fact is that 2 shirts are laid out for each player, 1 long sleeve, 1 short. Graham Roberts took one, left the other, and Paul Miller, changing next to him, presumably picked up the shirt that Roberts had discarded. But I wonder if you noticed, it's not the first time it's happened on the big match this season. A couple of weeks ago, there were 2 number 10s in the Palace side at QPR. Tommy Langley wore 1 number 10 shirt. Would you believe it? Vince Hilaire wore the other one, just to confuse us, I've no doubt. Let's get across to White Hart Lane, where both sides, in fact, have got plenty to bite on. Spurs needing a win to keep their European hopes alive. Liverpool still requiring 1 point to make absolutely sure of that championship.
Well, if you had to put your money on anybody being steadfast enough to earn you the point that Liverpool need, Phil Thompson would probably be your man. And the last trip as Liverpool manager to London for Bob Paisley. Yet 48 years ago, he tells me, he came here for a trial with Durham schoolboys and was rejected. Now, the course of Liverpool football history might have been changed if he had come to the capital. Nice change of mind there by Perriman, and it worked well as he found Miller. And a good ball played in by Miller for Perriman. On for Archibald. With a
Again, Liverpool defending really well on the edge of their own penalty area. Now Mabbott. Brazil watched, but beaten by Thompson, and in the end, Souness just getting it back to Grobbelaar. First time that Brazil has had any great joy out of Phil Thompson. He turned him well, and Thompson for a moment was lost there. But Grobbelaar was able to stop it and get the return from Souness. Catching Liverpool out in defence, giving Galvin just a yard or so. And Grobbelaar pawing it away. Hoddle. Brazil. And a free kick to Tottenham. It was, well, fortunate for Tottenham, really, that it spun nonetheless to Hoddle. Towards Archibald! Fingers of one hand, I would have thought, the number of times in the course of a season a Liverpool defence allows anybody as free as that on the edge of a 6-yard area. Brazil's touch for Mabbott. Oh, and for a moment, Lawrence held off, and Archibald is through. Will it be number 2? It is! A smile that says he scored twice in about 3 minutes against Liverpool, and not many strikers in the course of a season can say that. But a mistake, it seemed to me, by Lawrence, who didn't quite get to that one, and suddenly Archibald is through, and he kept his nerve brilliantly as Grobbelaar came out. But it's a good strike. Caught it on the volley, and it was a dipper that we've seen often enough, just slipping under the crossbar. It was a good effort. Here's Hoddle. Mabbott. That's a fair shot! Mabbott raining in a shot there. Hurriedly taken with the left foot, but powerful. Miller, Archibald. A foul on him by Alan Hansen. And we come to the last minute of the game. Hoddle finding Galvin wide on the right, with Mabbott and Brazil waiting in the middle. A deep one towards Alan Brazil. Can he beat Phil Neal in the air? He can. Mabbott's in there. It comes for Archibald. Oh, and he thought a hat-trick was on there, but Grobbelaar was down like a hawk. Don't need me to tell you that we haven't really seen the best of Liverpool today. It was a fairly unnatural, caution-filled performance in the first half, and they've never really got into their stride after Archibald hit them for those 2 quick goals in the second half. A victory for Spurs, a wait for Liverpool to see what's happened at Norwich, whether they're champions or whether they're not. 2 goals by Steve Archibald put Spurs firmly on the road, up the table towards a place in Europe. A final score then here at White Hart Lane, with applause ringing round this stadium. Tottenham 2, Liverpool 0.
So, when Liverpool got to their dressing room, the one thing they wanted to know is, had Manchester United beaten Norwich at Carrow Road? The answer was they hadn't. It was a draw. So, even though Liverpool had lost on the day, they were the champions for the 14th time. The Spurs manager, Keith Birkinshaw, duly obliged. He took them champagne. But at first, I'm told Liverpool were in no mood to drink it. That defeat at Tottenham really had rankled them. They knew they hadn't played well, and I think that says a lot about their attitude. But what a day it was for Phil Thompson, recalled to the side and Liverpool through and through. And of course, so many of his greatest moments have been with the Liverpool manager, Bob Paisley.
Well, it's my funniest story about him was when we had a young lad at Liverpool, Brian Kettle, and he was a bit getting him down about, you know, he's not getting a game or anything. So he says, I'm going to see the boss. So he walks in, he says, can I have a word with you? Yeah, sure, son, sit down. So he says, I want to know what my future is at this club. And he said, bloody hell, son, who do you think I am, Patrick Moore? So it's brilliant, things like that, so quick and everything. He's an amazing man.
7 championship records, that'll take some beating. Liverpool then right at the top. They go into the European Cup next year. Now, if Manchester United to beat Brighton and win the FA Cup, they would, of course, go into the Cup Winners' Cup, leaving 4 places, if you're following me, in the UEFA Cup. Watford, who beat Arsenal 2-1 today. Forest, who won 2-1 at Manchester City and put City in real trouble. Villa, who thrashed Stoke 4-0. And Spurs, well, they must be the teams at the moment in the driving seat for those UEFA Cup places.